In the mist-draped folds of Cairnwood Hollow, where the pine-clad ridges meet the whispering streams, there lived a young woodcarver named Thorn. He had the eyes of a dreamer, often cast toward the distant peaks where snow clung even in the warmest seasons, glinting like secrets under the sun. Thorn had carved for as long as his hands could remember, shaping wood into forms that danced with the breath of life. But lately, his heart had grown restless. The village, nestled deep in the hollow, thrummed with the familiar hum of axes and saws, the chatter of neighbors, the rhythmic creak of water wheels turning in the ever-rushing streams. Yet, for all the bustling energy, Thorn felt an ache, a gentle but persistent pull, as if a whispered invitation stirred beneath the skin of the world. One autumn morning, as the mist clung to the trees like forgotten thoughts, Thorn set out into the woods. He carried no blade, no chisel, only his bare hands and the pulse of something wordless in his chest. The forest was thick, its ancient boughs arched overhead like the ribs of a forgotten cathedral. Sunlight filtered through in splintered shards, casting his shadow long and thin against the moss-carpeted ground. As he wandered deeper, the air grew cooler, touched with the sharpness of pine and the dampness of unseen streams. The path, once clear, became tangled, a latticework of roots and fallen branches. Thorn pressed on, drawn by a force he could neither name nor resist. At last, he emerged into a glade, a hidden place where the light fell in golden pools and the air hummed with a strange, silent song. In the center stood a towering yew tree, its trunk twisted and ancient, its roots snaking out like the limbs of a forgotten giant. Thorn felt his breath catch, a sharp intake, like the moment before a plunge into deep water. Without thought, he knelt beside the tree and placed his hands on its gnarled bark. The wood felt alive, warm even, pulsing with a heartbeat that seemed to echo his own. He closed his eyes, letting the rough texture press into his palms, and for a moment he felt the weight of ages, the slow, patient breath of the earth itself. Then, like the sudden break of dawn over a distant ridge, it came to him, a vision, or perhaps a memory yet unmade. He saw his hands shaping wood, not as a task, but as a dance, a silent hymn to the unseen forces that called him. He felt the warmth of the firelight on his face, the rough grain beneath his fingers, the quiet joy of creation unburdened by purpose or plan. When Thorn opened his eyes, the yew's shadow had stretched long across the glade, the day leaning toward its cool twilight. He stood, his heart lighter, his path clearer. He would return to his workshop, not to toil, but to dance, to shape and carve, not for the clamor of the village or the weight of expectation, but for the silent, strange pull that had found him here, deep in the hollow. And as he walked back through the tangled woods, his hands alive with the memory of that ancient touch, he felt the whisper of the yew still in his veins, a quiet, unerring guide through the twisted paths of his days for the first time in many moons. Thorn smiled, his heart no longer adrift, but anchored to the silent call of what he truly loved.